Right, welcome everybody. This meeting of Connected Communities Scrutiny Committee. Can I ask that the live stream is started, please? Yep, thank you. Right, welcome to this meeting held this day, Tuesday, 17th of Feb 2026. A few basic housekeeping rules. Fire and emergency for those present in the meeting room. If the fire alarm sounds, please leave the building via the nearest exit and make your way to the fire assembly point in the car park. The agenda papers and other relevant information for this meeting are available for public viewing on the Herefordshire Council website. The Council is streaming this meeting live on the Herefordshire Council YouTube channel and is making a recording. Others are permitted to film, photograph and record public meetings, providing it does not disrupt the business of the meeting. If there are any members of the public present who do not wish to be filmed or photographed, please raise your hand now so that any such person filming or photographing may be made aware. For participants in the room, please raise your hand to indicate you wish to contribute. When invited to speak, please press the button on the right of the microphone unit and then speak directly towards the microphone. Please remember to turn off your microphone once you've finished speaking. Please ensure that mobile phones, laptops and other devices are turned to silent. Councillors, please mute your laptops. For remote participants, people that are attending remotely, can I request you use the raise hand feature within the system if you wish to contribute and to introduce yourself when called upon. Please note that only committee members present in the meeting room are entitled to vote. Right, apologies for absence have been received from committee member Councillor Bruce Baker. Thank you, Councillor Baker, but you are observing online, but I understand that Councillor Dave Davis is present. Thank you, Councillor Davis, as the name substitute for Councillor Baker. Do any members wish to declare any interests in the agenda item here today? Yes, Councillor Phillips.
Yes, the speaker for the tourism, Glenn Jones, owns properties in my ward.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. For the record, I have checked with the scrutiny officer. I am a board member of the DBID as a representative of one of the market towns. I've checked whether I need to declare this as an interest, and it's been confirmed I do not, but I am mentioning it for transparency. Moving on. Right, we'll move on to the minutes held for our last meeting the meeting held on Tuesday, the 9th of September 2025. The minutes document of the meeting held on the 9th of September is included in the agenda at pages 13 to 18. No matters of accuracy have been notified to the monitoring officer. Is everyone content I sign the minutes as an accurate record? Thank you. Do I need a proposer? Councillor Toynbee, seconder, Councillor Cornthwaite. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. You abstaining, Councillor Davis, as you weren't here. That's fine. Thank you very much. We will sign those. Questions from members of the public? It's my understanding we've received no questions from any members of the public. Right. Having said we will put them on silent, the chair will now put his laptop on silent. And questions from members of the council. The committee has not received any questions from members of the council. Right, we move on to item 7 on the agenda, which is tourism in Herefordshire. The purpose of this is to review the governance and delivery structures, impact on inclusivity of the DMP, Destination Management Plan, and future decisions and an internal policy stance. I'm going to ask for an introduction from Roger Allenby, who's the Service Director of Economy and Growth, and Nadine Kinsey, who is the Economic Development Manager. Over to you two. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So it's a really great opportunity and very good timing today for this discussion, so thank you for having it on the agenda. Tourism is hugely important to the Herefordshire economy. It generates a huge amount of, in terms of income and contribution, and employs lots of people, and all of the kind of facts and figures you've got in the kind of the background paper help demonstrate that, and I'm sure we'll get into that a bit more today. It's timely because we are in the process of reviewing the economic plan for the county and looking at some of the kind of key actions that we need to kind of draw out of that, and that's something that will progress through cabinet in the coming weeks. So it's a good opportunity to kind of review where we are. Tourism is really important for being an industry in its own right, and obviously we've seen over years things like farm diversification and other things supporting the kind of the change in economic circumstances around tourism is a really key industry for us. But one of the other things it does as a huge added benefit is it's about promoting the county as a place to live and work and study, and some of our unique strengths as a county around natural environment, culture, sense of community. Those are the things that from an inward investment perspective and trying to attract the right kind of skills force to want to work here, to attract the people that are going to live in all of the houses we've got to build through the local plan in the next 20 years. Tourism is an integral part of that, and ensuring we've got an alignment around how we're promoting the tourism's visitor offer and cultural offer goes hand in hand with those other things. Really pleased to say today that we've been joined with thanks for their time to Diane Mansell, who's the Chief Exec of the Herefordshire County Business Improvement District, and Glenn Jones, who is the co-chair of that business board. And I'll pass over to them now, just so that they can tell you a little bit about who they are and their background. They effectively lead the vast majority of tourism activity for the county on behalf of businesses for the county. Glenn, Di, do you want to?
Thank you. Would you like to start? Yep.
Thanks, Chairman, and I echo Roger's comments. We welcome this opportunity very much today to be here, and I think share lots of positive stories about tourism within Herefordshire, and I'd like to think the role that we play in it. I'm very proud of what we do. I co-chair, as Roger mentions, with Joe Hilditch, and we have a board of 9. We're in a critical time as we run up to reballot in the autumn, and I'm sure that'll shape quite a lot of the conversation today. As a little bit of background, I've been involved with tourism in Herefordshire. We're Diversified Farmers, our own business, and been involved with it for nearly 40 years. And in some shape or form, I've been involved with an association or an organisation promoting tourism within Herefordshire. First of all, for those of you who can remember, Bobby Heavens with APH, Association Promotion of Herefordshire, and then many guises of Visit Herefordshire when it was part of the Herefordshire Council's portfolio with Jane Lewis, and then when it went to the Chamber, and I remember at a point when Sir Ben Gill and the Bishop and others were involved. So I've seen many, many iterations, and I'm delighted, pleased and proud to be a part of the destination bid. I think it's a really great model. It works very well, and I look forward to hopefully discussing that in a bit more detail. We're a team of 3.5, a very small team of, delighted to have Diane. I don't know how many hours in every day and days and every week she works, but she's really put in masses into the workload that we've got is incredible, and she and the team are delivering lots. A very small team. Doing lots of things, and of course I hope it'll crop up, but if not, I'm going to slot it in now. We've had this amazing launch of Hamnet at the Courtyard recently. It's putting Herefordshire on the global map. At the end of the credits, Herefordshire Council are mentioned, and that the BAFTAs are coming up soon, the Oscars soon after that, and Herefordshire Council will be there, and that's just one part of what we've been doing. But I'm delighted again to be here, and I'll just ask Diane to say a few words.
Hi, so I'm Diane Mansell. I've been running the county bid now since May 2023, doing a similar job for the last 23 years or so. So that gives you a bit of background for me. I like to start having conversations like this about the bid to let people know why we do what we do. So for the visitor economy and what that means to Herefordshire, in 2024, the STEAM report, which is the economic impact report for the county, stated that tourism meant £773 million to Herefordshire, which is, as you can imagine, is not a small amount of money for the size of the county we are. It employs approximately 8,000 full-time equivalent people in the county. So again, it does have a massive impact on every element of life within the county, and I'm sure we all use tourism businesses every single day. And the reason why I like to tell people, it was £773 million, as in compared to the figures that we had in 2023, that had increased by 5%. which doesn't sound like a huge amount compared to the previous year, but when actually you take that into account of how the rest of the West Midlands and other rural economy, tourism economies across the country fared during that time, I've got some stats to sort of explain. So visitor days, we had just over 8 million visitor days, which was an increase of 0.3% compared to the year before. And staying visitor days, we had just over 3 million, which was an increase of 0.4% compared to the year before. It was a very challenging year in 2024. It was very wet, and the cost of living impacts on our visitors really started to hit home. And then you start looking at how the rest of the West Midlands fared during that time, and they had a 14% fall in staying visitors and a 10% fall in day visitors. So our tiny 0.4% really starts now to look actually quite incredible. And then you go on to the fact that other rural destinations had a 6% drop in staying visitors and an 18% decline in day visitors. So yes, Herefordshire is new to most people when they're thinking about where they're going on their holiday, but it shows the work that the Business Improvement District and the Visit Herefordshire brand is really making an impact on when people are making those decisions. To have that 5% overall increase is immense, and we really have to thank our businesses for all the work that they do and all of the support that they give us to be able to deliver the projects that we're delivering across the county. I won't go too deep unless you want me to into the projects that we deliver, because obviously you've all received the report and the last 12 months worth of updates. But yeah, it has been a fabulous 2 years, 9 months, and I can really see the difference we're making every day in what we're delivering, and those figures hopefully prove that.
Thank you. I think that was a really good introduction, so thank you all for that. So, Frank, did you say you wanted to come in with something quickly before we start properly?
Yeah, I just wanted clarification on that word rebalance. Could you just put that into layman's terms for me? So I understand in November you're having a rebalance. But
Reballot.
Reballot, right? Okay, well that's clarified one word. Could you explain what really is happening behind for that, please?
Happy to do that. So business improvement districts operate for a 5-year term, and every 5 years we have to ballot our levy payers to whether they want to keep us for the next 5-year term. And it's very similar to a local election. We have to go out and ask each of our members whether they want to keep us or not, and they vote. They vote a yes, and so on the voting slip that they have is a yes or a no question. But we take the answer to that yes or a no question 2 ways. So whether we have to have 51% or more, say, of voting members, so those that have actually physically voted, 51% or more say yes, they want to keep us. And we also have to take 51% or more of the rateable value of the combined yes and no votes have to be 51% or more in the yes for us to continue for a further 5-year term. If we hopefully secure a yes vote in October, then we will continue for a further 5 years. If we are unlucky and receive a no vote, then the work that we do would cease.
Don't mind, Chair.
Yeah, that's
Just
fine,
to
Roger.
clarify, as the council has votes as well, so the council on the current term and the current basis, so the business plan that the bid board sets out for the 5-year term becomes a kind of a legal commitment to deliver that plan. It sets out which businesses are eligible to vote and therefore pay a levy, which is currently 2% on business rates for businesses over £12,500. The council, because we own things that fall within the definition of the bid, so things like car parks, museums, libraries, we have 23 votes from the things that we own. So in that ballot that comes up later in the year, the council has a decision to make as to whether it will vote in favour, abstain or against. In the last ballot, Nearly 5 years ago, we voted in favour of creating the bid. So probably just worth clarifying in terms of the discussion today, the council has a role in and an opportunity to vote in that ballot.
And the 23 votes, what power do those 23 votes have as well?
So it's equal vote to equal vote to anybody else. So we have 23 individual votes because we've got either 23 car parks, museums, or other things that would be eligible to vote if they were individual businesses. They contribute towards the count in the way that Dan just described in terms of rateable value and in terms of a number of business. But to put it into context, I think it's 544 businesses that have the opportunity to vote. So it's 23 out of 544 votes, if that makes sense. So obviously it has a bearing on, but not a fundamental impact on the
I'm going to
outcome.
interrupt you. That sounds like we might have a fire alarm.
Yeah.
It's not a drill. Thank you. Apologies for the interruption. There was a fire alarm. We're all now back inside, and we will attempt to continue this meeting. As our Democratic Services Officer just said, tourism is obviously a hot topic this afternoon. There we go. Boom.
I thought we'd banned you from telling jokes.
Yes. Right. Where were we? We've had the introductions from the Director of Economy and Growth, Roger Allenby, the Development Manager. Nadine, did you want to say anything to begin?
Just to introduce myself, Nadine Kinsey, Economic Development Manager. I'm an observer on the bid board, and I've helped the previous 3 bid ballots go through governance.
Thank you, Nadine. Right, now, the reason we are here today, we're getting a little bit of echo. Thank you. So the reason we're here today, obviously, is we acknowledge the importance of tourism around the county. When we were looking at our work programme, we identified 2 key areas that certainly, in my opinion, I think of the opinion of many people around this table, culture and tourism are uniquely intertwined. And we looked at culture last year and had a very interesting Scrutiny Committee meeting with members of the Herefordshire Cultural Partnership, and it was decided at that time it would also be obviously in everybody's interest to look at tourism, especially with the ballot coming up, and to look, while it's an opportunity to look at some of the work and some of the great work obviously that the DBID's done, also to look at the responsibilities internally within the council of our responsibilities towards this obviously extremely important sector. As Diane highlighted, nearly 800 million each year and 8,000 full-time jobs. I think we did a rough calculation and looking at the turnover of the county, that equates to roughly 20% of the economy for Herefordshire. And I think some of the figures that we were looking at as far as projections, I don't think you touched on those, Diane. Tourism is expected to rise to in the region of £1 billion for Herefordshire within the next 3 years. Within the next 10 years, I was doing a little bit premature. Why can't it be in 3 years? No. Okay, within the next 10 years. So a hugely important sector of the economy. So, but our concern, and I'll just explain why I think it matters today that we're sitting around this table. At the present time, the council currently doesn't have a dedicated tourism budget. We don't have a tourism officer, and we have no in-house tourism function. So delivery of tourism promotion and business is effectively outsourced to the county DBID, which obviously leads on the LVET, the Local Visitor Economy Partnership, and has produced in partnership with some of us here within the county, the DMP, the Destination Management Plan. So for me, as I said when we were looking at our lines of inquiry, this session today, this scrutiny session, is not about whether the DBID works, whether you're working hard to deliver all the activity you're talking about. It's about whether the governance model, the strategic oversight and public accountability arrangements are robust enough for a sector of this scale and importance. And I guess the big question I was going to ask is tourism in Herefordshire a council-led strategic priority delivered through partnership, or is it a DBID-led marketing function with limited public sector integration? So I'd be interested to hear observations perhaps on that first question, really. I don't know, Roger, whether you want to answer that. And sort of the fact of where we are in terms of the council's ability to support tourism around the county.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So there's obviously quite a bit in there. I guess and it's worth considering, I guess, to begin with, that yes, tourism is very important to us, but we don't individually support or have an officer for any other sector or any other industry. So the way that the council supports economic development generally is around provision of business support through the Growth Hub for any industry. We've got an economic strategy where we prioritise support for sectoral growth. In the key sectors, we've got an opportunity to support the growth of the economy through. So when we've spent things like UK Shared Prosperity Funding or Rural Prosperity Funding, it's been targeted at supporting those sectors which have got the greatest potential to support our economy. In the past, perhaps 10 years ago, local authorities tended to have tourism officers and to run some tourism functions themselves. That's predominantly changed across the country. not least because of funding situations, but also because it's, I guess, the model, the DBID model is about the industry supporting itself. And the council took a decision about, well, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. So the group, one of the many groups that Glenn's kindly supported over the years, looked at how the industry could support itself more to promote the visitor offer collectively, because obviously you get greater impact for marketing doing things together than individual businesses spending small amounts of money on marketing individually. And the councils then took the decision at that point in time to provide funding to develop a feasibility study to see whether the business improvement district itself was feasible, whether it would work, whether there was enough businesses to support it, what kind of levy it would need to charge. And then the council also funded, it was about £100,000 worth of investment at the time, to support the development of the business plan and initial ballot to create the bid on the basis that over the 5 years would generate this kind of £500,000 return on the levy and create a structure and a way for the industry to kind of support itself, kind of an investor save argument, if you like, at that point in time. We have since then continued to support with the finances we have had available to us. So I think the paper identifies that we spent about £125,000 with the DBID through UK Shared Prosperity funding. And there's probably more on top of that as well that's been provided. And that doesn't account the money that's gone to individual businesses, tourism businesses applying for grant funding through those pots. Unfortunately, at the moment, the county has no allocation from government to carry on with business grant funding. Economic development is a non-statutory activity. So obviously you were all in the budget meeting last Friday. Core budgets are being squeezed. Non-statutory activity is being squeezed very much to all of your credit, Cabinet and all of your credit. You continue to support economic development as something that's really key to supporting the growth of the county, but it's a non-statutory activity. And I've been doing economic development now for well over 25 years, and it's the first time I've ever known there not being any public funding available to support business growth in the and that's in all areas outside of combined authorities at the moment, and that's going to have a real impact on business, all business sectors going forward. That means the extra money we've been able to provide the DBID is no longer available. I guess in response to the question, we don't have resources for our tourism officer. It doesn't mean that we are blighted from supporting the industry, and because that has been led by the DBID very ably from some of the things that Diane said. It's the sector leading itself. It's businesses who know best the sector and the industry investing that money, some of which is council money, in supporting the industry. And we obviously have the remainder of this current bid term for the bid to lead that, and are hopeful that they will then have another 5 years from the end of this year in being able to carry on that activity.
Thank you. That kind of segues nicely with my next question, which, before we get into other areas, the reballot, I think, it was raised, and I do think it's an important place to start. So it feels like a significant moment, the ballot, and the report obviously identifies a lot of risks should the ballot fail, and there's no current alternative model available. So question again for the council, what criteria will we use when deciding how to vote? Has Cabinet articulated the tourism policy to guide that decision? And should we be developing a minimum contingency model in the event that, for whatever reason, the ballot fails? So, Leader, I don't know whether you want to come in on that.
Well, yeah, thank you. It's always worth having a contingency, but my administration is in full support of the bid. It's been a real success. It's been going since 2021, but I think that there's a track record there of the impact that it's having. And so to lend our full support to the bid is absolutely a given, but I think there's much we can do to support the bid in when we move towards the ballot. Obviously the ballot is for the members. We have 23 votes, as it's been said, but we will vote to support the bid. But it's up to individual members to cast their votes, but the advantages of having a bid are, as we say, there's a track record that's been established. There's been some incredibly positive initiatives on the back of this initiative, and we want to do all we can to support the bid and all of the initiatives that are part of that and part of promoting Herefordshire as a whole. So we will lend our full weight and support to the ballot process and and supporting the bid and highlighting the advantages of having a bid. But of course, as I say, it's up to the members to vote accordingly, whichever way they choose. And if there's a recommendation for us to think about all eventualities, then I welcome the input from the committee.
Councillor Phillips.
Yeah, I mean, we were all here last Friday and dealing with a £30 million gap in our revenue account. And Mr. Allenby has referred to the fact, and he's had a longish career in economic development. And this is, a moment when there is no government money for business of this type. I mean, we have in the past, or perhaps we were in the past very, very privileged to have an awful lot of European money, and we were identified under that, and we've made a lot of use of that. But at this moment in time, we haven't. And the fact that, of course, the metropolitan areas have tells us everything we need to know about what we're dealing with. It is a big political point, but it's one we should not let escape, because it now puts us in incredibly difficult positions. So it is absolutely crucial that all the colleagues that have that ability to vote support this, because I do think that there is no real alternative that can match the offer that's currently being given by this authority in the future. And in particular, so I've got a few technical questions that we've got. First of all, we've now seen a business revaluation, which is in itself quite controversial, particularly in the tourism and hospitality trade. Will that affect the database of potential voters? I don't know whether you want me to
Do you want to just hear? There might be a list of questions, and then I'll come back.
There's a list.
Then we'll come back, and you can take them. By all means, ask for them to repeat it. But I don't like to stop Councillor Phillips when he's in mid-flow, like I just had.
Because I might forget where I am and give up. The second question really is for the council, is that yes, we will be under enormous financial constraints. But it's not just about giving money directly to various business. It's what we can do by liaising with our planning department, because that's important, with our economic development partner and what capacity we have, and also our highways, because our highways are very important, and the reputation of selling the county outside. So all that's important. The one thing I particularly wanted to say is, in my awareness, I have been to some of your conferences. I have also been, like some of the other people in the room, part of this feature of tourism in Herefordshire, and I can remember Bobby Heavens and and go back all those times. But what I was very impressed with at the meetings that I went to the current bid was the way that they use data and the stats that they produce to drive their thinking. And I think that's important. Herefordshire's problem is, of course, that we're a lovely place, but we haven't got any big tourism offers. We've got no Alton Towers, maybe, thankfully. We've got no big stately homes, but we've got lots of small, very valued businesses. And, of course, that fragmentation is its weakness. So we've got to bring them together. And I think not only bringing them together, but driving them with that good data source, I was most impressed. And I want you to elaborate on that, because I think it's important that we as a committee understand what contribution. And the final question that I'll ask at this stage is, again, we're not an island. So Herefordshire, you shouldn't be beating itself up. So where do you look for your other benchmark colleagues and say, well, that's where I go to see best practice? Is that North Yorkshire? Is that Cornwall? Is that a fair representation? Because Cornwall's too vast and has got seas and we haven't. But, where do you also see? Because I think part of that lead of your business is to say, yeah, we have this issue, but so do these other places as well. And this is how they're tackling it, and this is what we're learning from them. So those are my questions. Probably one for our council team and the rest for the bid.
I think Diane was keen to come in, so first over to you, Diane.
I think to answer the revaluation question, I'm going to have to very quickly explain how the ballot works and how we're going to get to the ballot. So I've already explained how the actual physical month-long ballot will work, but to get to that point, we do lots of work with our businesses. So we've already run, before Christmas, stage 1 consultation, so very top level, give us some ideas about what problems you're having, things that you've found beneficial, all of that sort of aspects. We're now in the process of looking and analysing the stage 1 consultations and going into stage 2 consultations, which will be launched at this year's tourism conference in April. And then we have 7 roadshow events that will be moving around the county. One of the reasons why we do that is to try and find out what aspects are really affecting businesses so we can help put projects together to resolve that. But also, during that second stage consultation, we'll also be looking at the rules that govern the Business Improvement District. So currently, businesses with a rateable value of £12,000 or over, on the 1st of January each year, is 2% of their rateable value, which then is what they pay in levy. And that's very key. So in the next 12 months, their levy will not change because the new rateable value doesn't come in until the 1st of April, and their levy for this year is based on what their levy is on the 1st of January 2026. And those bills will go out at the end of March. So it won't affect anything during this term. Though, while we're going through the second stage consultation, we start to look at whether we need to change some of the levy rules to make there's lots of different reasons why you would look at changing levy rules, but coming up with whatever problems we've encountered over the previous 5 years also feeds into that process. The rates revaluation is obviously a key aspect to that. And what we can do is, once we know exactly who will be within the new term, so anybody with a £12,000 rateable value or over, which will change from our first term because obviously there's such a drastic change in the rates revaluation, we then pull a list together and we can do a very quick calculation to find out what impact that will have on our businesses. So for example, and these are just figures picked out of my head, currently we're collecting £500,000 a year. If the rates revaluation changes that to £600,000 a year, that's obviously an extra £100,000 impact on our businesses. But because of the key time that we're in, we can have a look at the percentage levy, currently 2%, and we could lower that to make sure that there was no extra impact on the businesses that are going to be our levy payers moving forward. So the bid would still continue on the same sort of funding level that it is at the moment, but we're not adding to that impact on the businesses. And one of the other projects that we also run alongside this is our Place Support Partnership Savings Project. And that is a consultant that we work with that works with all of our businesses free of charge. He will go out to them, he can do it remotely if need be, and looks at their bills, their operational costs within the property, and helps to reduce them. So far, using that project, we've identified £352,000 worth of savings for businesses across the county, which is not a small amount of money. And we have been finding that businesses that have interacted with that scheme have saved much more than their levy that they're paying into the process. So as you can imagine, that is a really big impact, and we're using all of those conversations that we have with our levy payers, the conversations that we have with non-levy payers across the county, our partners and other stakeholders, to make sure that the impact we're making is a positive impact on the businesses and not a negative one. So I'd say that's probably the answer to your revaluation question, if you think I've covered everything there. And then I would say sort of the benchmark question, we work very heavily with Visit Worcestershire, we're working with Visit Shropshire, we work with Visit England and attend other regional LVEP meetings to make sure that we are feeding off projects that other people are running and seeing which goes well for them, which hasn't, and which we can then use that evidence on the projects that we're running here as well. So we're we're not an island. We are definitely working with all of our partners and neighbours, but working with Nicola said at Visit England, who's our regional rep, we're also working with other LVEPs across the whole of the UK.
And if you could say something to the committee about describe the data that you use.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah, so we've got a few different data sets. So we work a yearly data set with our STEAM data, which was the data I was talking about when I gave my introduction, which gives really economic impact over the whole tourism sector. We can look and look at other people's STEAM data and see how we get those comparisons, which is...
Just explain the acronym for people, all our viewers at home.
I'm going to have to... I'll Google it in a minute because I can't remember off the top of my head. But there's two different types of economic impact reports. So it's STEAM and Cambridge report. We use the STEAM report. And a lot of our partners also use the STEAM report. And we've been using that in Herefordshire for quite a while. So it means we have multi-years worth of data, not just the last few years. That comes out around April time. We're already working with them at the moment to feed in all of our other data sets into that project to make sure that we're getting the full report that we need to. So that's one of our data sets. Another one is place informatics, which is footfall data across the county. Currently in the market towns and the city centre, we include Hay-on-Wye in that. So we've got all 6 market towns and then the city centre. And we've been collecting that data now for the last 2 years. We feed both place informatics data and the STEAM data into funding applications that we use, but also our businesses have used. We share all of that data with the council and also town and parish councils when they're filling applications out as well. We've found out that it's very needed to exactly do what you said, which is look at how we can see what's already happening within the county to then lead projects moving forward. And on top of that, we also have our social media stats, website stats, how people are interacting with the brand. And all of that together really gives us a really good understanding of what projects to run for the next 12 months. And hopefully when the business plan comes in and the ballots are yes in October, how that will help then format the next 5 years.
Put your microphone on, please, Councillor Phillips, so people can hear you.
And just a question to the team. So what are we doing as a council? Understanding our limited position because of financial constraints, but what about, how do we engage with planning, economic development and highways on what we can do to support the tourism sector and tourism businesses?
It's a good question, and I should have mentioned that earlier. So obviously there are a wide range of different services that impact upon tourism, all the ones that you mentioned, Councillor Phillips, but also things like public transport, bus services, public realm, regulation, public rights of way, licensing. All of those have an impact on the industry and vice versa. We do work closely, obviously, with being on the DBID board, but also all of those areas fed into the development of the Destination Management Plan, which is an annex to the background paper. So the people leading that work that was commissioned by the DBID consulted all of our colleagues across those different departments. The vast majority sit within the Economy and Environment Directorate that I sit in and John sits in. I'm responsible for planning, for example, so can make sure that the link across between the local plan and development planning and tourism and economic development are kind of well aligned. Certainly, we're restarting the local plan process at the moment, and obviously that fully considers some of the economic priorities that we've got and looking at how we create that kind of strong visitor offer. There's elements within the budget, which was discussed on Friday, around supporting things like public rights of way as a kind of a key part of the visitor offer to the county. So all of those things are very much kind of aligned to and supporting how we can meet some of those tourism priorities and objectives. It's also worth saying that as Diane and Glenn now develop their business plan for the next 5 years, part of that process is a formal consultation with each of the council's departments that impact on tourism, which sets a kind of a baseline for the things that the council will fund, and then identifies the added value that the bid would then bring into those areas. So sometimes when there is a criticism of bids, it's what's the added value? Is it a kind of a stealth tax on business to do some of the things the public sector should be doing instead? But actually there is a set process with the development of the business plan that says these are the things the public sector is committed to delivering, and then these are the added value things that this investment through the bid will bring. And that again helps us coordinate some of the things that the council's wider services do to support tourism.
I think you want to. Did you have a question for clarification, Frank?
From you, Roger, did you say, am I right in thinking you said there's no money now to give towards businesses to develop them?
That's right at the moment. So over the last kind of 4 or 5 years, there's been something called UK Shared Prosperity Funding and Rural Prosperity Funding, which was allocations from government to councils to be able to allocate to support different business sectors. And we had to develop a plan for that said, well, how does it fit with local priorities? So obviously tourism's a priority, it's in our economic strategy. We allocated money within those pots from government to support the industry. Diane and Glenn won tenders we put out to support the promotion of tourism through that, and we gave grants out to a lot of the rural prosperity funding in particular went out to individual tourism businesses that were applying to expand and develop and grow. Those funds effectively run out in March of this year, so we have got a little bit extra time to spend what money we've got left over, but the budget was until the end of March in this financial year. We have no new allocation of any government funding to support tourism or any other sector going into the next financial year. The money that has been allocated has only gone to mayoral strategic authority areas, which Councillor Phillips mentioned before. Without wishing to go off on a tangent, there was an announcement this week about creation of foundational strategic authorities and a desire to move for all of the rest of the country to move in that direction in the coming months, including the potential to charge tourism levies and other things. But at the moment, we do not have a route to or any access to government funding to support our economy, which is the first time in decades that that's been the case.
I just wanted to point out, and trust it's a little bit relevant, is that this council, when I started Frank's Luxury Biscuits, helped with grants. I would believe they helped Tyrrell's. I would believe they also helped Joe Hilditch, who is joint chair. And when you look at the food businesses that have been developed in Herefordshire, and when you brought them all together at one of our #1 tourist attractions, Hereford Cathedral, that place, and that was run by Visit Herefordshire, that place was absolutely packed out 2 years in a row, and sadly it lost the location and nowhere else seems to quite fit it. But there is such a huge thing with local food businesses where the businesses have been developed around food, which Herefordshire is noted for, and some of our top tourist attractions. And how we bring those things back together would be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, if you want to come in, Dan.
I was just going to say, we do have the Visit Herefordshire Tourism Conference that happens in April at the racecourse, that all food businesses are eligible to come to, as well as tourism businesses, and we have about 200 businesses come every time. It is free tickets if anybody wants to come.
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on something that we were talking about there, and the way the council responds to the priorities within the DMP and the business plan. There are one of the phrases in the DMP is that it calls for getting the basics right on infrastructure. So getting the basics right on infrastructure, and the question is who's responsible. So which elements of the DMP require council leadership, and how are we going to make sure that they're delivered? Because if we don't, then the DMP, as it says, doesn't get the basics right.
So if I respond to that, that's okay. So I guess it comes into some of the discussion around the kind of structures and ways of working. So the destination management plan identifies a number of kind of key activities and actions within it with different kind of lead partners. The way that it is coordinated is through the local visitor economy partnership. So the difference between the destination bid and the local visitor economy partnership is, we've heard from Diane set out very well, and Glenn, that they have 500 voting levy paying members, and they serve those members and wider. Tourism is bigger than that, so there's a couple of thousand businesses across the county that are involved in tourism, and all the things we've just talked about in terms of public realm, public transport and other things are in addition to the things that the bid delivers. The way that is coordinated and the structures that government set out for that is through the creation of local visitor economy partnerships, or LVEPs. Diane led and Glenn led on behalf of the county a submission seeking LVEP status on recognition through Visit England about a year and a half ago.
April 24.
Is it? Oh, blimey, time's flying. And we're successful. So Diane and Glenn provide that point of contact for Visit England as to secure that LVEP status. But the LVEP, the organisation and delivery of the LVEP, is through an advisory board which includes the county bid and the council. And it's through that group that we look at where the actions are and how we will deliver those actions kind of going forward through the destination management plan. Obviously, as Nadine also said, Nadine sits on the board as an observer, and there is that kind of coordination of day-to-day activities. And we also regularly meet with and engage with Hereford City bid, who deliver not necessarily tourism-focused activities, but deliver things that cross over with the tourism economy or visitor economy in the city.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to come back to that in a second, but I think Councillor Baker has. I'm going to use my discretion as chair, Councillor Baker, because you're here twice, really, because Councillor Davies is sitting in as a sub. But I'll use my discretion and allow this question.
Yeah, thanks. I thought I'd look at this as a potential tourist. What's here for me as a tourist if I turn up for a weekend stay in Hereford City? There's, as far as I know, I can't do an open top bus tour, I can't do a black and white tour, and I can't do a tour on the river. And so I just wondered, are we encouraging the private sector to provide these sort of facilities for tourists? Because this is what it's all about at the end of the day, isn't it? We're providing facilities for tourists to our city or to our county. It was just a thought.
Would anybody like to answer, Councillor Baker?
I'll have a go. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Baker. There's so much to do, it's sort of difficult to know quite where to begin. And there's a whole host of things when you visit the website, from the amazing trails that we've done. There is a black and white trail, clearly. All the history, heritage, castles, phenomenal churches. That's a great reason people visit Herefordshire. There's so many offerings. It's incredible. So I understand it'd be great if we had better river access in the city, and there's things that can always be better and improved. Open top bus tour, haven't seen that in my experience in Hereford City previously. Would there be enough for open top bus tour? There's lots of amazing city guides walking tours, of course. So yeah, I think there's lots for the tourists to do.
Roger?
I think just to kind of add to that, thanks, Glenn. So we have a very strong tourism offer. We could probably do more. We know, I would argue we've got as strong as offer in terms of the wider county as the Cotswolds or any other kind of potentially more brand recognised names, and some of that comes from just building on the good work that has been done over the last kind of few years. The thing I think that you draw out there, Councillor Baker, is the distinctive offer in the city as opposed to the kind of wider county. So this is kind of potentially one of our challenge areas to kind of work on. So the majority of the visitors that come to the county come for the natural environment, cycling, walking, canoeing, out kind of rural activities. That doesn't translate quite so much to people visiting Hereford City Centre. And obviously that's where the opportunity comes to spend money. So you tend to spend more money when you're in the market towns and in the city in terms of evening entertainment, food and drink. and the like. And this is actually one of the things that was identified in the town investment plan for Hereford as part of the Stronger Towns funding, that there is this gap. And that's why the council has been supporting big projects like the new £20 million museum and art gallery, the reopening of Shire Hall, the investment in the public realm, creating a Hereford City Master Plan is currently in development, which will be launched in the kind of coming weeks, which looks at the relationship between the museum and the cathedral and the Mappa Mundi, and how do we encourage more links down to the riverside. So we have a strong offer of things in the city, and a cultural offer, and very good food and drink, and that kind of distinctive local offer through that. But we could certainly do more to promote and support the development of the city's offer alongside the wider county's offer, which would increase visitor spend, length of stay, and they are some of the things that we're working on in some of those major projects that the council's bringing forward at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Toynbee's been waiting very patiently, so I'm just going to bring Councillor Toynbee in first.
Yeah, thank you. I've actually been crossing lots of questions off my list because quite a lot of them have been answered, which is great. That's really helpful. I was reassured by what we heard earlier, especially in relation to the county plan, that, tourism, because, when you look in some of our plans and strategies, it does look a bit absent. So it's reassuring that it is going to be built in with all the conversations around the county plan and everything. What you say about government support is less reassuring, but we all know what the picture's like. It's really good to hear from BID. It's really good to have you here, and to have the senior members here, and to have the leader and the cabinet member here as well. So that's really good. I also had questions about contingency, which you've asked, and risk, Chair, and also, as my colleague asked, about other comparable counties, and in preparation for this, I was looking at Cornwall and Carmarthenshire, which are quite interesting comparable ones. So it's really useful to have this report, because whatever the questions or recommendations arise today, it's very useful having it set out, because residents do look to us for leadership, don't they? And if they say, what are you doing about tourism? They don't want us to sort of talk in council speak about strategies and partnerships and visions and all that kind of stuff. They want to know what we're actually doing. So it's really helpful to have this report setting out what we actually do, laid out clearly, and that they'll be able to see the DMP as well. I think there are arguments that tourism isn't like any other business, because it's not just about business, it's about buses and rivers and forests and museums and planning and all our public services, actually. And what is good for tourists is good for us. So I think we can make a special case, actually, for tourism. And just going back to, as far as the bid is concerned, I've got a few questions following on from your question, Chair, about accountability. So we're an observer on the board, but I would sort of like to know if the council does have a role at all in holding the bid to account on behalf of the levy payers, or not just the levy payers, the wider sort of tourism community in general, and in monitoring the sort of oversight of the DMP. I mean, if I understood right, that's sort of via the LVEP, but I think maybe it would be good to have a little bit more clarity about that as far as sort of democratic accountability is concerned. Thank you.
So I think that in terms of the kind of the governance structure, so the arrangement for the LVEP advisory board is the cabinet member for economy and growth, Councillor Biggs, sits us on that alongside an officer as an observer, which I attend, along with the chair of the bid board, and Diane as the officer from there. And there are terms of reference which we'd be happy to share that kind of explains that overarching kind of structure. And obviously then we have an observer status on the board itself. In terms of oversight, so the bid is a limited by guarantee company in its own right, so it is completely separate from, in terms of governance, from the council. We have a role on the board, obviously, of that, or observer on the board from that. The council then has a legal duty to collect the levy, so the council collects the 2% on top of the business rate. So when Hoop will send out the business rate bills, it includes that 2% additional payment, and we passport that money on through to the bid, who have a legal duty to deliver what's in their 5-year business plan. So bids can only deliver what's in their business plan. The business plan is part of that ballot at the point in which it's formed, and they can only spend their money that's generated through the delivery on that business plan. The council, if we thought in an extreme situation that the bid wasn't delivering the business plan and was failing to meet that duty, we can withhold the collection of the levy, but that's in reality the only kind of direct governance or oversight role that we have, because it's a limited by guarantee company, and its board is accountable, as for any company, to deliver are legally bound to do their best for the delivery of that company.
I think Diane wanted to come.
If it makes you feel any easier regarding governance, yes, we're a company limited by guarantee, so we're our own entity. But one of the things that I've been very set on since I started working here at the company is to make sure that our governance is above and beyond as transparent as we possibly can make it, and fits perfectly into what the council and other partners would want to see if we were a council body, if that makes sense. We have all of our accounts fully audited. We don't have to do that. We choose to do that to make sure that we are fully operational for our members. All of those accounts are uploaded to our website. All of our governance papers are uploaded onto our website so people can read them. We also went for British BRIDS accreditation, which is a national standard for business improvement districts, to make sure that we are fully operational in every element of governance for the company. And we also worked with the BID Foundation for an accreditation, looking at how we operate our website to make sure, again, we are fully transparent, working with our levy payers and all of our members. So that sort of gives you an idea of the governance that we internally run. And please have a look on the website. It's all there for you to have a look at. And then we also, every year when the levy bills are sent out, in fact, I'm in the process of signing it off at the moment, we write something called a statutory explanatory notice, which gets the council will receive, but all of our other levy payers also receive, which gives a full breakdown of what we've delivered over the previous 12 months. And what money and what themes we've spent that money in over the previous 12 months, and how we expect to spend the money over the next 12 months. It's a slightly more detailed version of what would go out with, I suppose, the council tax bills. But we do that to make sure, again, that we are fully hitting all... I would even go above and beyond hitting all of our governance targets. There is a lot of business improvement districts that don't have this accreditation, but we were very keen to make sure that we did have it, so we could, in meetings like this, say that we are fully transparent.
Did you want to come back to that story? Yeah.
Well, maybe you'll follow up with something about the DMP as well. Maybe you've got a question on that.
I'm going to move on to a slightly different topic, but we can come back to that if needs be. I just want to look briefly at inclusivity around in the report. One concern is that I pulled out a couple, by targeting active explorers and cultural explorers, I think, which is what we pulled out, do we risk skewing everything towards higher end spenders? I mean, from a council perspective, we want Herefordshire to be welcoming to everybody. So, it's not, but from a DBID perspective, perhaps representing the businesses, we're only looking to attract people that can spend the most money in all of the businesses. There is a tension between, how we want Herefordshire to be perceived as a welcoming county to everybody from at all economic spend levels, and the DBID's desire to get maximum high wealth individuals coming to the county. So how are lower income families, young people and diverse communities reflected in the strategy, and how are, at the same time, how a residents' interest is safeguarded, because sometimes the impact of lots of people coming to do tourism can have a negative impact occasionally on residents. So a couple of things there I'd like to look at around inclusivity, please. Do you want to come in, Glenn?
Thanks, Chair. Perhaps to help illustrate the point, or related to our own business, is that we run holiday parks in Shobden and Erdsland and just over the border in Prestine, and we can have tourism visitors who come camping, young couple, and spend £30 for a weekend, and then there's all the various stepping stones when then they get a bigger tent, and then they have a family, and then they buy a touring caravan, and then they come and stay in a static caravan, and then they buy a static caravan, and then they buy a lodge, and they end up spending 200,000, and there's multi-generations coming to visit. And I think, although I'm citing our own business as an example, that applies a lot within Herefordshire accommodation and provision. And if anything, by targeting the groups that you mentioned, I think we are broadening our market, because very much, as a business, we clearly want to go where the money is, and the grey pound is really important to us. But by bringing in that younger demographic, we're protecting the future as well. And then on your point about the inclusivity, we have obviously clearly working with Visit England and all the accessibility things. When we first began, had some board members who were local accessibility pioneers and advocates, and they've helped us. But of course, the great thing about the offer that we've got here in Herefordshire, and back to Councillor Baker's question and Roger's answer, it's about the green space, and the sort of people with neuro issues love getting out and hear the birds sing and go for a walk in the countryside, and it's as simple as that very often. So I feel comfortable and confident that we have a broad offer in terms of economic and inclusivity.
Anne?
I was just going to say, a lot of the campaigns, yes, they do have the upper element. You know, you can stop in this wonderful tree house for, that isn't extremely accessible to everybody. But we do have the other element to that as well, and we make sure that all campaigns have elements that everybody can access. And I'm going to use our most recent launch, which is the Outdoor Active app, which is the Visit Herefordshire Outdoor Active app, so please download it. But what that gives people, because we have paid for the development of the app, it gives everybody completely free access to it. Normally it would cost £40 a year. There is no access charge at all. You can use the app completely free. It gives people the element to use all of these different trails, have access to all of this information without any cost. We're also speaking with the local NHS to see if they can promote that across their networks to their patients as well as all of their staff. So when we talk about visitors, yes, we're obviously talking about people from outside of the county, but the county is so wide that you could live at one end of the county and still be a visitor at the other end of the county and not actually leave the county borders. So we also think about people inside the county as being our visitors as well. So we always make sure that we have multi-layers of opportunities for all different accessibility issues, whether that be financial or physical. And we also try to do exactly the same with our membership levels. So yes, we have, when we're talking about businesses, yes, we have mandatory levy payers that hit a certain set of rules. We also have the ones that are £12,000 and below rateable value that can join as volunteer members, which yes, is still a paid for service, but we also have a free service, so all businesses within the county can still access some elements of our services completely free of charge if they can't afford to pay for it. So we deliberately design all campaigns and all projects so there is an element for everyone to be able to get involved.
That's very helpful, thank you. I think you touched briefly on the volunteer members. I think it might be worth sharing with people here how many volunteer members the DBID currently has, and how that stacks up with other DBIDs around the country, for instance.
So we currently have approximately 60 volunteer members. I have been speaking, because I was asking Nicola said, Visit England rep, how we stacked up against other DBIDs, and I'm just going to read one statement out from her just so I can sort of make my point. Or I'm going to, if I can find it. So there we go. She said, given the financial overview outlined, it is common for LVEPs to be membership organisations. So all of the LVEPs across the country are all membership organisations. They're not necessarily open to every single business in the county. And be able to manage representing and delivering for their members whilst at the same time also working strategically for a destination and managing the destination management plan. This is how 2/3 of LVEPs across the country currently operate. What we do is make sure that there is no barrier to any business working with us by having that free element. So yes, we do have a membership, but we do it in a way that nobody is excluded.
That's very helpful, and I think it's also encouraging just to note that there are 60 businesses that choose to pay effectively a levy that wouldn't otherwise have to do so because they value what the DBID is doing. Yeah. Frank.
You mentioned that visitors may be from one end of the county to the other. Can I just take it that those are not counted in the 8 million visitors to the county? We wouldn't be counting people that have travelled across Herefordshire as... Yeah, that's what I was believing. So where did I want to go? I wanted to go somewhere then after that. So I've made that point and just wanted to clarify it. The other question then is, Hereford City has a bid, which we may or may not have wanted to talk about today, but I'm seeing a visitor that comes and arrives in Hereford at the new Hereford Transport Hub, or the railway station as it is now, but that's going to be a great place to arrive in Hereford. But if you arrive there, you've not come in your car, but then you might be looking to expand from the city out into the county. And it's clear that a lot of what you do is once you've gone outside of the city boundary, that's very much a part of what you're covering. But first off, they've arrived in Hereford City itself. Now, is there an overlap of what you're doing so that the minute they arrive at our new transport hub on Hereford Station, they're looked after by either yourselves or the Hereford City bid, and will there be some sort of overlap? And if you've got a business in Hereford itself, do you have to pay twice to be... Right, okay, I'm glad the chairman's just clarified that. But if you can talk to me just through the other bit.
So just again to clarify, if people are within the city boundary, they do not pay both bids. They only pay for the city bid, or if they're outside of that boundary, they pay for our bid if they're a tourism business. We work very closely with the city bid. We promote all Hereford things on the Visit Herefordshire platforms. We never exclude the city. Although we're not physically looking after the city centre, we never exclude the promotion of the city from what we're doing across the county, because it is the jewel in the crown of the county, and we want people to come in, explore the city, do those different elements that the city can provide, but then travel out and really enjoy the rest of the county. I mentioned earlier about the Outdoor Active app. One of the special features on the Outdoor Active app is getting people to the starts of these walks using public transport. So if they don't have a car with them, the app gives them the ability and times and directions of how to use public transport to get to the starts of all of these different locations. We are working with the council, and I would hope that there will be something once the hub has finished and finalised, that there will be something that when people are turning up, that they can see the Visit Herefordshire branding, and if they want to, you know, utilise that website or the app. We have maps, Visit Herefordshire maps. I've got some in my bag I can show you later. We've got different versions. So the whole central section and the information covers the whole county, but there is a section for each of the market towns and the city centre that specifically just cover the area where they are to help them get around. But again, it really focuses on what's to offer, not just in the city centre, but the whole county as a whole.
Thank you, Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. When I was a child living in Carmarthenshire, I used to look forward to coming to Hereford or Herefordshire. But Hereford City, we'd have a walk around. My parents would drive us up here, and we'd, my brother and I, and they would walk around the city, visit things, and then we'd go out fruit picking. and that was the highlight of our trip to Herefordshire, was going round the orchards, picking apples and what have you, and then taking them home afterwards. And we used to do it 2 or 3 times a year, where we'd come and pick fruit, not only apples, but other fruit as well. So I think that it was a key thing for us, and we were just day trips. You know, we never stayed here overnight per se at the time. And I was just wondering, do we still have that level of ability to, I mean, I see very rarely when I'm going around the county now, signs saying, you know, pick your own fruit and that sort of thing, and supporting those kind of local farmers and their ability to communicate directly with the public and have those kind of tourists coming in. So are we doing anything to support that?
I think you might be about to book yourself on at a vineyard quite soon. Here we go.
So yes, we do. One of the themes that we've actually got in the way we're working and moving forward is agritourism. So it's all about the farmers, it's all about the local produce. The Herefordshire producer is going to be one of our new campaigns. We designed some elements of that last summer when we were at the Three Counties Showground to show people how many producers across Herefordshire were actually on the showground while we were there, and we're going to extend that project across the next 12 months. We have got vineyard tours, we've got orchard tours, we have cider circuits, we're in the process of developing a wine tour, and really working alongside the farmers and the ones that are going into the tourism aspects of their delivery, and how we can produce that. We've also got things like the food safaris, where you can there's 3 food safaris currently in Herefordshire, where you can travel around looking at farm shops, looking at restaurants that are serving local produce, and we're really all about the Herefordshire product and how we can sell that to all of our visitors.
Thank you. The Visit Herefordshire website is really good and promotes a lot of those things. How can we do things better, as in to advertise nationally and internationally our brand?
So we are already working with Visit England. I think one of the easy examples of this is all around the film office. So we obviously work very closely with the council on the film office, again with 50-50 partners, and bringing that forward. We'll talk about Hamnet in a moment, but before that we had Succession. Succession was actually part of the Visit England Starring Great Britain campaign that went out last year across the world. We have noticed the amount of people that are actually coming to have a look at the website and then coming and travelling to the county from that. We were then very, very lucky to secure Hamnet and the filming with Universal. Very shortly after we launched the film office, most people told us not to bother. Nobody had come to Herefordshire, it's too far away from London and Birmingham. But luckily we didn't listen, and they came and they filmed Hamnet, and that we have seen a huge impact of that nationally and internationally. We've had the Canadian Film Office contact us because people are asking where they can go and see the locations where it was filmed. And again, we're working with Visit England, hopefully for Starring Great Britain Part 2, and hopefully we'll be included in that if we get an Oscar in March, fingers crossed. But we are already doing those elements. We're hoping in 2027 to start forming a travel trade offer, which is where we work with local accommodation providers to provide a reduced rate on their room hire for 30 or plus bookings, so coach companies can come in, do the tour around the county. At the moment, we're not at the point where we can deliver that, but we are working towards that. And some of these projects that you may be asking about, a lot of when we were talking earlier about Visit Worcestershire and other locations like the Cotswolds, they've been doing this sort of work for a very long time. We're very, very new to the market. Which is amazing for our brand, because we're sort of sliding in where everybody else is on the way out because they're getting bored of them. We're going, oh, let's go there, we've not been there before. But it also means that some things like travel trade offers and international marketing is slightly a little bit way off, but if what it means is if we can secure the ballot in October, it then gives us a really secure foundation for the next 5 years where we know we've got funding in. A lot of other LVEPs aren't in that position, where we can plan a 5-year product to really start developing this, and then going with Visit England to international offers and marketplaces where we can start talking to travel organisers from abroad to actually come over.
Thank you. Any more questions from members here? Yeah, Councillor Toynbee.
Yeah, just one thanks. I'm coming back to the plan. You know, we all have to, we spend a lot of time, don't we, putting things together that are plans or strategies, because we have to tick government boxes to be eligible to bid for something or to get accreditation for something. And it's very nice, and I appreciate the fact that it's done. For me, it does look more like a sort of strategy or objectives than an actual plan or roadmap, but maybe that doesn't matter, or maybe we'll be getting a little bit more of a sort of actual plan as we get, you know, as time moves on. And I just wanted to point out the very final thing in the DMP, priority 7, get the basics right. Focus in the first instance on transport and infrastructure services. Ensure Herefordshire is easy to explore by car, public transport and on foot. So that is a very clear link with council responsibilities and, you know, especially buses, because tourists really welcome somewhere where they can come without needing a car, especially walkers. Thank you.
Yep, Diane.
With the destination management plan, so we secured LVEP status in April 24. We then took 12 months for all of the consultation and development of the plan itself. We then launched the plan at the end of April 25, so the plan has been in operation for about 9 months. The first review of the plan will take place in May 26. There is an action plan that sits behind the lovely glossy document that's on the website, which is a lot more detailed on different projects and things that can fit behind delivering each of the priorities. That I did go through that document last night, although the actual full review isn't until May, just to see how far we are at looking at some of these projects, starting some of these projects and delivery. And we do have actions against probably 60% of the action plan already. Yes, it's not fully developed, it's a 10-year plan, but in May, when we do the full review of what's happened for the first 12 months, that can be shared. It just hadn't been at the moment because we're still only 9 months in of developing the plan.
That's great, that's really helpful.
Roger.
First, I just wanted to say thank you to Councillor Davis for confirming that the produce in Herefordshire is much better than the produce produced in Carmarthenshire. And I think he counted as an international visitor when he came over the border, but and gladly stayed. So we need more of that. I think the LVEP boards, the kind of the advisory board, which is the council and the bid. That's the forum to oversee the delivery plan and a kind of account for the actions under it and how we're aligning council activity with it. There was alignment when we developed the local transport plan that was approved by Cabinet recently, around ensuring that there is that coordination of public transport out to the wider county where we can. Obviously, the money for subsidising public transport only goes so far, but that was certainly kind of a key part of that. And things like LC WIP and other things are being developed, considering about active travel measures and connectivity and how we make the best of those things as well. So there is that kind of interaction, and that LVEP is about trying to knit some of those things together.
Thank you. I just wanted to wrap things up a little bit, to come back to the leader. I was delighted when you said earlier on that, you know, your wholehearted support for the DBID. Can I ask then, has the decision been made that the council will be supporting the DBID in the ballot in October? And if not, would you know, obviously it's a recommendation we could decide to make today, but if it hasn't been made yet, how will you be coming about your decision to make? How will you be making that decision?
we didn't think it was a decision that needed to be made because we've been, since the incept of the bid, we've been lending our full support to it. So this is just a continuation of that, and the destination management document is, we worked with the bid to create that, and we constantly work with the bid. So it was not a question of having to review things and make another decision. If you think that that would help in our strengthening for the argument for the bid, that we should have an official decision to support the bid, then that's something that we would consider if that came forward as a recommendation. But as I say, we're in a really good position with our relationship with the bid. You've heard all of the positive responses that you've heard today, and the fact that they are a key strategic partner that is really pushing for tourism and all the benefits that it brings for Herefordshire. So we will continue to work with them, and we will continue to support them for when it goes to the ballot.
That's good to hear. I guess the question really is for the DBID, maybe for the chair. Would the DBID welcome a public statement of support from the Herefordshire Council that it will be intends to vote in favour in the ballot in October?
That's an easy question to answer, Chair. And very much the more support we have, the better. I think what we've delivered on puts us in a strong position, but nonetheless, as Councillor Phillips alluded to, we're in difficult economic times, and everybody's watching their pennies, and hospitality businesses are highlighted in today's unemployment figures. So everybody is considering what they do. We, therefore, as we've explained, hopefully trying to deliver value, but any public support would be fantastic. There's been some great questions today, and hopefully help shine a light on the stuff that we do. But I just want to reaffirm the partnership working element, and I think we have worked extremely well together. Small anecdote to illustrate the point. Recently, we were very fortunate in our business that won an award at a dinner, and it was down at Simmons Yacht. And as I collected the award, it was sponsored, that particular award was sponsored by Herefordshire Council. And so I thanked them. And as I used the words Herefordshire Council, there was a low rumble from the room. And I said, no. I said, every officer that we've worked with has been absolutely fantastic. Every member that we worked with has been fantastic. And I illustrated it with a few points. And then there was a little cheer and a little round of applause. So, it's very easy to get berated for potholes and children's services and adult social care and all those really difficult things that you're wrestling with. But here's a shining example of how partnership working has delivered for everybody. It's win-win. It's a shame. I do want to put it out there. I think it's a great shame that it's not win-win-win, and that the city bid aren't a part of the DMP in the way that we'd originally envisaged. They have a small element of what they're doing for tourism, but I think it's a missed opportunity, I would say. But nonetheless, the Herefordshire Council and the county bid working together, great job, onwards and upwards.
Well, I think on that sort of 99% positive note, it would be a great place to end this part of the meeting. I think we're going to take a short 10-minute comfort break. We could stop the feed, please. We will then look at putting together our recommendations. But I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. I think, as Councillor Cornthwaite says, it's been a very positive meeting. I think it's given us a lot of information. A lot of councillors are far more aware of what the DBID does. I'd like to thank you all for your time today. Thank you very much. If we could stop the feed. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry if we were slightly longer than we expected to be, but we wanted to make sure we got the recommendations correct. I'm going to hand over to the scrutiny officer, and Daniel, if you'd like to read out the recommendations, please.
Thank you, Chair. The committee is suggesting 4 recommendations, which are as follows. 1. Herefordshire Council recognises the considerable positive impact the Herefordshire Destination Business Improvement District DBID has had on development of the tourism offer and should ensure council departments support the destination management plan through planning, regulatory services, transport and highways. 2. Welcomes the council leader's view that Herefordshire Council will support the DBID ballot and recommends that the council supports the ballot publicly when it takes place and that Herefordshire Council continues to engage politically during the DBID ballot process. 3. Herefordshire Council develops a contingency plan should the DBID ballot not be successful. And 4. Herefordshire Council lobbies government to support business development, including tourism, outside of metropolitan areas.
Thank you. Please can I have a proposer for these? Councillor Cornthwaite, a seconder. Councillor Davis. All those in favour of these recommendations? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Great. Right, moving on to item 8 on our agenda, the work programme for 25-26-27. To consider the draft work programme for Herefordshire Council Scrutiny Committee for the municipal years 25-26 and 26-27. Do we have access to our current work programme? Could we just put it up on the screen for members to look at briefly? Thank you very much. Thank you. So obviously that's today's meeting. We've been looking at tourism. We've got our next meeting is in April, and one of the items we're looking on there is broadband connectivity, and that will be a review of sort of coverage around the county. I know this is something Councillor Phillips was very keen for us to look at, and we had a meeting yesterday with John, and we were looking at this as one of the topics, and he's quite happy for this to be one of the topics on our work programme and thinks there's value in us looking at it. But we are considering making April something of a double header. Do you want to explain the other topic that's come to us, Daniel?
Yes, Chair. I've had an approach from the Transportation Services Manager who's advised me that the Council is currently drafting a parking strategy which it is hoping to be presenting to Cabinet sometime in the summer. It therefore proposes a consultation process starting in April for a draft plan. The officers are very keen that this committee have sight of that draft plan and contribute to that draft plan, rather than just as a stop off before Cabinet consider it in July. So I'm currently working with officers to on a way to bring that together in a meaningful way so the committee can look at it. But what that would essentially mean is probably a briefing session sometime in March, date to be confirmed, and adding this to the work programme in April. To clarify this, when we talk about parking, this isn't around setting charges. This is just more general policies in terms of the parks, you know, the estates that we acquire, how we dispose of them, how we manage them, and so forth.
It does feel like quite an important piece of work and something we should be engaged with. Councillor Toynbee?
Yeah, thanks. I don't want to change the topic from parking if we want to discuss that.
Okay, I mean,
something to say about
okay.
Another possibility.
Okay, that's fine. So, yeah, so what I was going to suggest was to this committee is that we agree to look at a draft parking strategy ahead of the public consultation, or just at the commencement of the public consultation at our 15th of April meeting. So that will be broadband and parking. So that's my suggestion for the next meeting. And then moving on to July, that's when we'll be looking at the midpoint of the year of delivery. And we're asking for a report on all of the capital projects that have been undertaken over these 12 months. So we'll be looking at 6 months in, how things are going, what's progressing well, what might need a little bit of extra help, just so that we can shine a light on all the capital projects. And I think that will be a major topic for that particular meeting. I don't see there being much room for anything else in that July meeting. Sorry, did you want to come in, Councillor Tommy?
Yeah, I'm just, at the bottom of the... Well, firstly, I want to say thank you for the appendices, because these appendices are really, really helpful and useful. So thank you, Henry. You know, it really tracks things and does stuff in a way that hasn't always been done in the past. So I really appreciate them. They're very, very useful. So, you know, we did have as additional topics proposed. We had this Hereford City Master Plan, which has been put on the even further back than a back burner, unfortunately. We've got broadband, which we're doing, and then we've got UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and that was referred to earlier on in the discussion about tourism, as with Stronger Towns funds. And I just still think that all these funds and grants that are very confusing, that the public would like us to have a look at. We now have the Crisis and Resilience Fund that is coming, which is going to be different again. We've got Pride in Place. We have grants that are for the council. We have grants and funds that we're the accountable body for, that we redistribute. And I just think it's a complex picture, as is tourism. And simply having that report, quite apart from the discussion, is very useful setting things out. And I still, for me, that is still something I'd like to see us do.
I couldn't agree more. It was discussed yesterday as well, and I was looking at that as being our September topic. Funding in general, specifically UK SPF. I wanted to hear the success stories about UK SPF, what's gone well, what projects have benefited from it, what hasn't gone well. Hear feedback from people that have received grants and how they found the whole process. Also look at capacity inside the council now. We've lost a lot of members of the funding department. How are we managing funding within the department at the present time? And that was also something that we've touched on. So I would recommend that still stays on our work programme for, I think, is it our September meeting? We need to add the meeting dates, but it will be end of September, beginning of October. So that's one. That's a chunk. It might well be that there'll be another topic to join it, but I'm thinking of funding for the autumn, and then for the January come February 27, that will be a review of the whole year of funding. So that after the 12 months, there'll be we'll look at all of the projects that have all the capital projects over 2026, and I think that, again, that's another important meeting that'll take place in the new year. Yep.
Just to look back at the one that's on the 15th of April, we're asking for a lot of evidence from at least 5 different sources there. So I'm guessing that Henry's got a lot of work to do to fetch in the people that provide all that evidence. Can I ask also that we ensure, I don't know who the cabinet member is responsible for that particular one, or parking, I guess it goes to one of 2. Can we make sure that the cabinet members are invited? And on the evidence of today, can we ask them now? And
you're a mind reader. We actually had this discussion before the meeting today, and I've said, can we make sure that the cabinet members responsible for the different topics are invited well in advance for all meetings? And I think actually that's potentially good practice across all scrutiny committees, so that we get we well in advance, not just putting it in the diary, but that we get confirmation that they will be attending, because I do think there's huge value. Well, tremendous value in having the cabinet members here for that.
I think we need to know that we can address them.
Absolutely. And as far as your other point is concerned around broadband, we have spoken about sadly the officer that used to work here for broadband has left, but apparently the lines of communication are still open, and there may well be a possibility to engage with them, as well as potentially other advice from a neighbouring council as well. Could also be sought, but there's quite a lot to get into around broadband, and what we're hoping to do is have some form of public consultation, and we have approached the comms team, and what we're trying to do is work with the comms team to put out a call to residents and businesses on the impact on them of having such poor broadband in certain areas, so we can hear directly from residents and businesses on what they need and how we can best support them. So I'm hoping the comms team are listening. It would be great if we could organise that. That would be fantastic. Thank you very much. But can I have a proposal and a seconder for this work programme as we've outlined today, unless anybody has any other thoughts, recommendations? You proposing, Councillor Phillips? Thank you. Seconding, Councillor Owens? Yep, thank you. All those in favour of the work programme? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Great. Is there anything else on here? Right. I will move on to the date of the next meeting. The date of the next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, the 15th of April, 2026 at 2 p.m. I think that's everything. I'd like to thank you all for your time and patience today. I think it was a good meeting. Look forward to seeing you all again very soon. Thank you. Please end the live stream.